You're tuned in to Around the Lens, the internet's only live streaming roundtable discussion podcast, featuring Zach Roberts, Ron Hamilton, Travis Keys, and your host, David J. Murphy. Hello and welcome to Around the Lens episode 167. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Joining me as always is my co-host, Travis Keys. Hello, Travis. How are you doing?
Good. What's going on? How you been?
I've been good, buddy. I've been good. How's everything over there in New York City?
It's good. It's we had a nice warm day today, so I'm hoping there's no more snow. But yeah, it'll probably snow in April.
It was warm today. I was kind of surprised by that. The weather's been all over the place.
Nice day. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm down here in D.C. and it's just been like one day it's like 30 degrees, the next day it's 50 degrees. I'm like, what's going on? Come on.
It's crazy.
Pick a temperature, people. Anyways, what you been up to? We didn't have you last week. How you feeling?
I know. I don't think I was sick. I think I was busy. I was shooting. That's
okay.
why I was shooting.
What were you shooting?
I do that too. That too. Yeah.
You don't just do this show? Come on.
I know, it's crazy. I actually venture out of my house sometimes. No, it's been good. I'm doing a lot of from corporate to events to to some advertising stuff, some campaigns, some fashion stuff, and playing around. And I bit the bullet today and bought a medium format camera, so I'm very excited.
Nice. Yeah, medium format digital. That's pretty awesome.
Digital. Yeah. Something new to play with. I'm very excited.
That shoots video as well, right?
I believe so. Not that I would advise doing a, but yeah, it may.
Now, this isn't going to replace your Sony, right?
No, it definitely couldn't replace the Sony. I mean, the Sony is so fast and just a great all-around camera. This is for taking it a little slower and doing some landscapes, some portrait work, and some commercial work and stuff like that, where it doesn't need to be fast and furious. The Sony is definitely between the autofocus and just running around, and that one's just a great all-around camera. This is just more thought processed when you're shooting a medium format. It doesn't focus quite as fast. You really kind of think out your shots, and it's a little different.
Yeah. Is there a lot of client work for landscape work, or is that just more for your personal?
No, it's just I don't shoot a lot of landscape, or when I'm traveling, it's fun to do that, and I get great stuff off the Sony, but I always see those people with the medium formats. Like, I zoomed into a blade of grass and I couldn't believe. I want to experience that a little bit.
There you go. That's right. Awesome, man. Well, I was down in D.C. this weekend. I'm actually down here for some training, so I went to go to the African American Museum and just took some photos around the mall, shot some video. Nothing crazy. Just again, enjoy. D.C. is always a great place to go for photographing, even if it's just for the heck of it. So.
As a kid walking into Air and Space Museum and seeing the life-size model of the Enterprise, it was my favorite place in the world. Just seeing it up there. Yeah. As a little kid, that was the biggest wonder I could possibly see.
Oh yeah. Tons of great museums down there. I only had time to do the one, but it was a pretty awesome museum. If you have a chance if you're in DC area, highly recommend checking out the African American Museum.
The cherry blossoms.
Yeah, cherry blossoms.
When they come. Yeah.
This is cherry blossom season. I should have went down by the Jefferson Memorial to see the cherry blossoms. I did not do that. Maybe I'll try and hit that up before I leave the area. Well, we got a great show for you all tonight and an awesome guest. I want to introduce our guest tonight, Gabriella and Angotti-Jones.
Hello.
Hello, Gabriella.
Hello. What's up?
What's up? Tell us about yourself, Gabriella.
Not much. Sitting on my bed.
Nice.
Yeah.
How's everything going?
Everything's going really good. I just got back from Australia.
Whoa.
So I've been here in New York for 4 days. I was in 2 continents in the past week in 4 cities. I don't really know what's happening, but I'm here, so.
That's awesome.
I don't know what time zone where I am. Do I sleep? Do I wake up?
I have no idea where I am right now.
I always find it coming back is much harder on the jet lag.
Yeah.
Yo, it was so hard. The flight was only 12 hours, but I just haven't been able to adjust. Going there, it was no problem. I was okay, whatever, party. I'm up at 12 in the morning. It's fine. I'll go to bed. But, whatever. It's fine. I'll figure it out.
Well, it's like when I go to Korea, it's going to be a 23-hour flight or something crazy. So definitely not looking forward to that with the kids. But Gabriella, tell us a little bit about your career.
Just from the beginning, or
sure, whatever you want to say.
Okay.
From a little Gabriella.
Okay, so
how'd you get into this work, and kind of where have you been featured?
So, I originally started in marine science, and I was studying that down in Dana Point at the Ocean Institute. And it was around 2014, something happened where the ocean started warming up, and this thing called the Big Blob came in and kind of killed all the sea stars and all the different tiny animals and stuff like that. And it made me mad that the new local newspapers weren't really covering it. And it was basically the start of like the desertification of the ocean. And so I kind of decided that I wanted to tell the stories about the environment. So I started pursuing photography. I always had an interest in it. And so my focus is mostly going to be the environment. But from there, because I was an environmental major, I just decided to apply to a bunch of minority programs because I figured, that'll be a good way to get me in and might as well take advantage of being mixed race. Mm-hmm. And so I did CHIPS Quinn. I did NABJ student projects. I did a couple school newspaper classes and stuff like that. And I just kind of worked my way up, and I eventually got an internship at the San Francisco Chronicle, and then Las Vegas Review Journal, and then the Tampa Bay Times, and then last year I interned at the New York Times. And now I'm freelance. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Would you have wanted to be, like, again, you're in New York, right?
Mm-hmm.
And would you did intern at the New York Times, would you have wanted to be a staffer there? Was that an opportunity for you, or was it only freelance? Or do you want to be freelance?
I don't think it's an opportunity right now. I don't really know what I want to be right now. I'm just kind of trying to figure it out. All I know is that there's not very many staff positions, and it's easier to be a young person and a freelancer right now just because you can just do it and you can just get it going, and there's just more options for that. So that's what I'm doing right now. And honestly, I don't really like authority, so it kind of works out.
Nice. All right. Well, that's great. Great. And of course, joining us a little late to the game, though, always glad to have him, Mr. Ron Hamilton. Hello, Ron.
Aloha, gentlemen. How do I sound?
You aren't peaking, so that's great.
There you go.
And any day where you're not blowing up the microphone is a good day. Anything new with you in Hawaii?
Sunny and warm, sir.
Okay.
I'm so
great.
sorry. One of these days it'll get nice there for you.
Anyways,
as
usual.
Are you really in Hawaii?
See my shirt? You think people from Chicago dress like this?
It isn't fake.
Yes.
He's required by law to wear a Hawaiian shirt. That's
exactly. This is my.
I'm so glad.
And I'm getting a little bit of looks like a little bit of reverb on your end, Ron. So I don't know what that is or why that is, but you might want to look into that. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about your work, Gabriella. I wanted to feature, of course, the way I discovered you was because you were featured on CNN's Top 100 list for the photograph that I'm showing to our audience right now. This is a photograph of Shamika Sanchez as she nurses her son, Antonio, at a homeless shelter. Now, this is where her family has lived in New York for quite a while, since he was a week old, and it's one of 11,234 children under 6 living in the city's shelter system. So you shot this for the New York Times, and tell us a little bit about this photograph. Tell us kind of the story behind it.
So the story is I was approached by the two Metro photo editors, Andrew Hindraker and Jeffrey Ferticella, towards the end of my internship, or before the first extension. And they were like, hey, we have this story. It's about a homeless woman. You would be following her in her life in the shelter, and you'd be going with her to appointments, and you'll be able to see a live birth. And I was like, that's crazy. Sign me up. Yeah, I'm in, So for about a month and a half, I was in and out of that shelter and in and out of the hospital with her almost every day. We probably went to the hospital in about a month, like 7 or 8 times, just because she had a really rough pregnancy, because she was very stressed. She had preeclampsia. So she had high blood pressure, and she was actually leaking fluid. She was technically in labor for like a month because of preeclampsia. So we were just in and out of that hospital. And it was really hard to watch, especially, you know, I'm a young woman of color, and to see another woman of color go through that was really hard. But at the same time, I realized, like, I'm in a position of power, and so is she, because we can both work together to tell her story. So I was really collaborative with her. Like, I sat down with her and we would just talk for hours about what her triggers were and what her beliefs were, and just about everything. So, and it really helped me to be able to kind of predict what she was doing, what she was thinking. And so we just kind of got in a really, really good, I don't know, like jam. We just like got in tune with each other. And for this photo, like, she had just gotten home from the hospital and she was sitting on her bed, and she was just talking to me and the reporter about, like, just making it work and just, you know, living her life. And then she looked out the window and I took that picture, and I was a little nervous about taking it just because it looked so desperate. But I realized, I was like, you know what, like, I'm a journalist. I have to take the photo. I have to do this because this is what the reality is, and people need to see that. And I was really concerned about creating poverty porn the entire time, because, like, I didn't grow up low income. I grew up middle class in Southern Orange County. Like, I got to go to college. Like, my parents paid for it. So I just felt like I felt really sensitive to that. But, like, I talked to her about that, too, and we had conversations about that. And she was like, you know what, like, you just need to tell what my story is, and you need to tell my truth. And I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. So, yeah, I just tried to represent her and her power, and just tried to show her as a person, first and foremost, before anything.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great. You know, I'm curious, though, you know, obviously, so she was homeless and pregnant in the homeless shelter, right, before she gave birth to the baby. You know, I have to imagine that these welfare organizations would want to find a home for, you know, a homeless pregnant woman. Like, that would be top of the list priority-wise. Could she really not, like, there was no way to get her into a more stable environment for her and her baby? And how is she doing now? Has she been able to get out of the homeless shelter, or is she still with the child in the homeless shelter?
They're still in the homeless shelter. I believe she just recently went back to work. I'm trying to go and see her sometime in the next week or so. But, you know, that wasn't really clear to me. And honestly, because I was representing the New York Times and the shelter knew that we were around, they were acting a little extra. Like, they were making sure she was getting the services she needed. For example, when we first got back from the shelter, she asked for a crib, but she had 2 cribs in her room. We were like, why does she have 2 cribs? Did they just bring it twice? So it was kind of stuff like that. So it's, you know, I think at the Wynn, the shelter is a shelter for women in New York City. They have certain shelters for, like, women who are being abused, women who are pregnant, that kind of stuff. So they try to divide them up and give them certain attention and care. But that's all I really know about that.
I've actually worked with the organization through Robin Hood and stuff like that, and they're fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of stuff, and they do a bunch of seasonal things that, you know, like we did making gingerbread houses with the kids there and stuff like that. So I mean, they're a really good organization. They really do look out and protect the women, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's really cool that they have those kinds of services specifically for women. I think that's really rare and really cool.
And, like, she's going back to work now. Does she have daycare assistance? Does the homeless shelter offer daycare? I mean, how does that work?
I think the homeless shelter offers daycare at a certain age, but her mom is a really big help in her life. So I'm sure her mom is helping her. Again, like, I have to talk to her. I haven't been able to talk to her, but that's what I assume. And that's what they were talking about before she had the baby.
Well, that's great that she has that support system, and hopefully she can utilize that to maybe get out of the homeless shelter. That's like, if her mom is there, maybe there's an avenue there. I know, you know, I did a little homeless documentation back when I was in Syracuse, and it seemed like at least the homeless I encountered, they had family members. It's just that for one reason or another, they didn't feel comfortable going to them for support, you know, or whatever. You know, there was some sort of rift there between the family. So because her mother is there, I mean, that's a big thing. So I'm hoping, you know, she can make a better life for herself.
Yeah.
And especially as a parent myself, and, you know, again, you know, once you become a parent, you know, you tend to have much more sympathy, and you see children definitely in unideal situations like that tugs at your heartstrings a lot more. I hope this kid is going to be okay. I mean, it can't be easy. This kid and all the 11,000 kids in homeless shelters. I mean, I hope that they have a system, that will help them, in their future.
Yeah, and that's actually something that myself and my editors talked about, was kind of try to show their everyday life, because that's how people are able to relate to one another, is through seeing shared experiences. So I'm glad you were able to connect with just her being a parent, because that's what we really tried to do.
Oh, yeah. Breaks my heart that, any kids have to be in any sort of situation. Again, like you said, you grew up in middle class, and, you didn't have to, obviously, thankfully, deal with this type of thing in your life. And I hope the kid's going to be okay. That's the most important thing to me.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask, obviously, this photo was featured on the CNN's Top 100 list. How does that make you feel? And how do you think this photo fits within the overall just choice selection of photographs? Why do you think it was chosen? How does it feel to be chosen for this list?
I thought it was really cool that it was chosen, just because I don't think there are a lot of stories that address inequality in the United States and the wage gap, and specifically homelessness and how many Americans are homeless. So it was really exciting to see that, amongst all the Trump news, because it's a part of Trump's America, with all this. I mean, we're in tax season right now. We're barely getting any refunds as middle-class Americans. So it's a way to kind of show like the opposite side of the spectrum from what we're experiencing, and I thought it was really cool. Yeah.
Great. You guys have any questions for Gabrielle about her photograph before we move on to our topics this evening? All right. Well, let's talk about our first topic this evening. We're talking about photo use. Again, it seems like no one cares that photographers have the copyright for their imagery. And it seemed like a judge didn't care that when the RNC took a photograph by Erica Peterman and basically used it for their ad campaign or whatever for the Montana conservatives against a liberal. And anyways, so they used this photograph for a mailer, and then she took him to copyright court, and apparently the judge sided with them, saying it was fair use. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, really? This is what we've come to. So what do you guys think of this? Is this sort of the downfall of our overall copyright system? I mean, it's like, it always seems like we have to educate people on the fact that our photographs are our own and we own them, and, they have rights. I mean, it's like every other week on Petapixel, there's somebody saying like, somebody offered me exposure for my work that it's like, I can't pay the bills with exposure. Do people not know that people try and do this as a living? Travis, you make this as a living, doing your work doing photography. How many times have you been asked to give your work for free?
People want it all the time, and people are kind of always looking and undervaluating the photographer right now, because there's so many. And being a part of the chairman of APA New York, we're big on the advocacy and of photographers and fighting for the rights and certainly copyright. And right now, there's a whole lot going on in terms of copyright and even registering your pictures, which is becoming very difficult in terms of now they make it like templates don't work, and they wouldn't even tell you if you'd pay the fee to put your photos in, and if it wasn't accepted, they would keep the money and not. So there's all these different things that are going on with the changes in the copyright system right now, and where you used to be able to batch load a ton of, now you can only put it in a certain amount at a time, and they've made it more difficult. So we're fighting for the rights for photographers on that, and trying to stay on top of that and lobby in terms of doing the right thing by the photographers. But right now it's really kind of scary and difficult in terms of, it's almost to the point where it's like, we're going to take a chance and roll the dice, and we're going to mea culpa later. You're like, oh, oops, my bad, sorry, because half the people can't fight it, don't know how to fight it, or don't have the resources to fight it. So the big corporations are like, give it, what, so what, sue us, or or we'll take it down, or we won't take it down. It's kind of scary, and it's hard for the small freelancer photographer to stay on top of it, and without an organization, that's vying for you. And it's why you kind of want to be part of a photography organization that's going to kind of lobby on your behalf and give you advice and help you legally and give you the advice on how to carry on that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there about lawyers and whatnot, and the NPPA has a lawyer, Mickey Ostreicher, and he's always trying to like fight for photojournalists and stuff to get them to the proper compensation or whatever sort of rights issues that visual journalists are dealing with. Does the APA have someone like that on like retainer, or is that just a resource? Like if I were part of the APA, would you just offer me a? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, we have certain people that we're using right now to help us lobby and help on the copyright issues and that kind of stuff. We also have certain people that we advise and stuff like that. We don't have a legal team retained just for certain things, but we do have legal representation and people that we talk to and refer to on certain subjects and stuff like that. So, being part of that organization, we can always this is who we talk to, this is what we do, this is who you should talk to, so we can always guide people to the right avenues.
Like, this is who we use, this is who we recommend for you.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah, how do you even stay on top of that? Like, I'm a new freelancer. I just don't even know how to even approach that, And I think a lot of young people coming out of college are just kind of like, whoa, what?
And that's the main thing is what's so important to me in talking to especially emerging artists and people that are coming out of college and in college is you go to these schools, and I went back and kind of discovered photography later in my life, and I went back to school and I kind of realized going into it, having run a business and owning nightclubs and working film and TV for years and going back as a student, it's like they don't teach you how to be a business person. They don't.
No.
It's like the last thing in the world. It should be one of the most important things in a prerequisite course that really teach you how to be a business person and really protect yourself and do the right things. And that's sort of what APA is doing now. Is we're really starting to go into mentorship programs and do sort of like we'll assign our board members and members a student, and we'll be available for them in terms of an hour or two a week in person, and then by Skype or by phone or email a couple hours a week, so that we can work with them and kind of give them advice as working professionals where and what and how and have that. The most important thing is that we support each other. As we know right now, there's so many photographers and so many organizations that are taking it all inside and in-house. And if we don't protect ourselves and really stand up for our value and what our work is valued at, then they'll continue to say, well, we'll hire someone for $100. Mm-hmm. Really have to protect what we do, and the people that we've invested a lot of time and gear and money and education and hours of sweat and equity into what we do, and it's not something you just go out with an iPhone and shoot. It's we understand storytelling, we understand the dynamics of using a lens to convey through emotion, whether it's rich deep focus or bokeh or we understand how to. The best way I can describe it is when you first start speaking a language, you don't know how to say anything. But as you get more fluent, suddenly you not only know how to speak the language fluently, but you know how to change the word into funny or sad, or you can change the inflection. And so what we do is an art. And the more we have experience, the more value we have in terms of how we use our cameras and the stories we tell.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's funny here. It's like the judge was like, oh, well, this was posted on social media, so she wanted it shared. And, it's transformative in nature. I don't know. It's definitely a weird way to look at the sort of fair use laws in that regard.
Yeah, and Justin, I don't know if you read recently, the Hudson Yards just opened in New York, and they have that wonderful sculpture there that you can walk around, and the vessel. And basically, they had basically said that in perpetuity that they had the rights of every photo that was taken from in there for life.
Yeah.
And they just recently changed that because there was a huge stink about it. But that's basically, what these, you have to be very careful with these Facebooks and all these social medias and, and IG is like, what are you signing away? And, you have a lot of these people that are, trying to make money off of your photos without paying you.
Ron, anybody asking to take your video from Eagle News and use it without your permission?
Apart from my station itself. This reminds me of the case with Adam Curry and his Facebook page. I think it was it was his what's that website where you put pictures? Owned by Yahoo. Flickr. Thank you.
Now, no longer owned by Yahoo.
Yeah. Anyway, you get the idea. He had it listed as Creative Commons by attribution, no derivatives, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And a tabloid took his private photos from his family stuff there and put it on there in their tabloid and said, well, it was listed as public, And so they took him to court, and he won the case, but it was based on the Creative Commons. Like you said, no by attribution, no derivatives, no non-commercial use, whatever like that. But the argument was the same: was, hey, it says public. It's not private, it's public. Hello, public. That means we can use it. No, that's not what it means. It means public. You can see it. Anybody can see it in the public. Doesn't mean anybody can use it in the public.
Right. Yeah, I think that Creative Commons. I mean, now you gotta be careful if you have your stuff on Flickr, and you want to keep it on there. They will let you keep it on there if you make it Creative Commons. But don't go on there and allow your stuff to be made Creative Commons unless you're ready to give up, pretty much your rights to the imagery and allow it to be used for free. So, and
that's also the problem. Everybody's not lawyers, and even if you were a lawyer, all these usage rights and all that, nobody's reading them all, and nobody has the time to read them all, and especially where they're hidden, and just like there's no way to really know what you're kind of giving up.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber now I'm starting to get into called Legal Eagle. I don't know if you've heard about him. But he does legal commentary on mostly pop culture things. Like he'll watch, legal TV shows or movies and comment on how authentically they're doing law. And
or inauthentically.
What's that? Inauthentically.
Or unauthentic.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. He did a great breakdown of, I think it was Doctor Strange or something, one of the shows. He's a really great YouTuber. Anyways, I think it'd be neat to have him sort of chime in on copyright law and whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, I know Sharky was saying that on his show, something about I haven't looked into Flickr's Creative Commons regulations there, but Creative Commons does not sign away your rights. If you put something Creative Commons, does not mean you lose all rights. It depends on what type of Creative Commons license you select. So you can say derivatives, no by attribution, non-commercial use, and it's you can tie it down as tight or as open as you want.
I just think once you start going down that road, I think people don't know the difference, right? And so somebody's going to just, or they may not do the due diligence to research what that means, and I think you start going down a road.
In general, under any circumstance, if it's on the internet, a lot of people, it's on the internet, I can take it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like if you're putting your stuff on the internet, we've talked about this many times. Watermark it, put it low res. If you want to feature your stuff like for your portfolio, don't put it in such a high resolution that people are going to use it for their projects and stuff like that. Unless you're ready to have that battle. Like I think again, they got you to use this for a mailer. This is a pretty high resolution version of the photograph. So, again. I keep my stuff low res or watermarked, if I'm gonna put it online. Just gotta be out there. Anybody does Eagle News ever have any copyright fights issues you hear about that you know of, like somebody taking their stuff and reposting it or whatever? I was curious if that's ever been something you've heard about. No.
I think we talked about it on the show before. We have contracts with say AFP, the different agencies, and because we have a contract with them, we subscribe. So we can use any media that we purchase from them in any way we like. Right. So it's kind of the reverse. We generate our own too, but we haven't had a problem people stealing our stuff, or being used by other Philippine TV stations or anything weird like that.
No one's taking your video of butchering the Philippine language and posting it, claiming it as their own.
Not so far. I imagine that will happen someday, but so far so good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments on this before we move on to the next topic?
Yeah, I actually got a photo stolen and was turned into a racist meme.
Oh my god.
And then I found out about it a year later on Snopes.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
So it was crazy. Big.
Was it at least a false on? It was at least a false on Snopes.
It was a false on Snopes. Yeah. So I went to the California RNC, and I was shooting for El Tecolote, which is a Spanish newspaper, and I took a picture of a burning Trump piñata, and there was like a kid in the background wearing a Mexican flag, and then some asshole took it and said it was a Mexican kid burning an American flag, and it just wasn't at all, and it got put on Facebook and it got circulated, and people were just saying the most racist things about Mexican people in the comments, and it was literally just because there was a brown kid holding a flag next to something burning. And Yeah, it got. I think when I checked, there was something like 500,000 watches on this video that this dude made about like Americans or immigrants not appreciating America and stuff like that. And then I think Facebook took it down, but it was on Snopes. Like it was big.
That went viral.
Yeah. So I was really mad at myself, and it kind of made me like realize that I should be more careful of how I photograph things and what pictures to send in. Like I shouldn't send in photos, because that photo wasn't even good, but I still sent it just so they could have it, and she used it and it just got picked up and used. So it just made me feel like I should be more intentional with the photographs I take.
Yeah, absolutely.
So people using photos the wrong way, that's a topic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to me, even in my, well, anyway, it has happened in the past that I will send in a bunch of photographs and, golly, they used my bad ones. Oops. Maybe I shouldn't have sent those bad ones in. Maybe I should have with what I sent. That's true.
Well, we were talking about gear earlier, and, now that you're acquiring some new gear, Travis, some medium format gear, you might want to put some of your other gear on this new service called Fat Llama. I had not heard of it before this story, and I don't know if I'm going to even look into it any further because of this story. But anyways, the way it works is you can put your gear on this site, and I guess people can rent it from you directly. So it's kind of like the Uber of camera gear rentals, I guess, or something. But
I don't even let my friends use my gear. I'm not going to send it out to strangers.
Yeah. I don't. This is like, I mean, thousands of dollars worth of gear given, essentially, loaned out, and hopefully you get it back. there's a lot of riskiness going on with this that I wouldn't personally take in with my gear. But have any of you ever heard of this service or thought of using anything like this stuff?
Yeah, I lived in San Francisco for 2 years, and people were talking about it, but I don't think you should do that in San Francisco because there's a huge culture of cameras and TV cameras getting stolen and cars getting broken into. So I don't know. I just wouldn't do it. Like a lot of the journalists and news people are really careful with their cameras and wouldn't want to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I've certainly used a bunch of rental services, but they're big legit ones like lensrentals.com and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The smaller ones, you get to a point where you don't want to mess around with insurance and all that and liability, and just like the bigger houses, you can take out the insurance, and not worry about it, and it's just it's not worth playing with the smaller ones.
Yeah, because basically the gist of this story is guy has a 5D Mark IV and a lens and kit, whatever he loans out to this person who's brand new on the service, doesn't have has never rented anything, has no comments. That should have been his first flag, and basically been let me rent to somebody who has a little bit more of a reputation. And so basically he rented the thing, and it seemed to go okay, and then the person never got back to him, and then they had to go through this whole process through support to get the
traffic jam out there in Hawaii.
Yeah, Ron, what's going on over there?
My mic was muted. It wasn't me.
That wasn't you this time?
My mic muted. It wasn't me.
Okay. Yeah. Copying on the counter. Anyways, so he just had to go through a whole bunch of frustration. I think eventually, he did get his money back for the camera gear, but it's just a horrible experience to have to go through.
It's just one of those things. Everybody's working some kind of scam or something. Because I was selling a bunch of old Fuji gear today, and I get this email that I was trying to different ways of selling it. So I'm like, all right, haven't done Craigslist in forever, but I'm gonna give it a shot. And I list it, and I get a reply from someone who's like, oh, I'm interested in the gear. And, can you send me pictures? I'll send you PayPal. Send me your PayPal stuff. Can you send me an estimate for the shipping? So I bundle it all up, brings it to FedEx, and get prices on it. Like, all right, I'll do the next day. Send me the PayPal, send them the invoice, and I get an email. You've received payment from PayPal for the amount. And I look at my PayPal, it's not there, but I get the email, and I can notice that, well, this is a scam, because the person's like, as soon as your funds are being held, and as soon as you send the tracking number, it will release the funds. I'm like, it's like everybody's trying to scam someone. It's like, and a lot of people would fall for that, and very easily fall for that. So there's so many ways with smaller companies. That's just, you pay a little more for the legit places, that large houses and stuff like that, but there's peace of mind, and it's this. It's at the end of the day, it's it's like taking the insurance on a car rental. When I was in Iceland, thank God I took it, because I lost half the car on the side of the road. And like $3,000 worth of damage. I didn't have the insurance. It's one of those things you don't want to pay, but once you pay it and something happens, you're happy.
Yeah.
Well, also, I can see a guy signing up for the service. Oh, I can rent my gear out, and trusting that the service is going to be the one to vet the renters and not worry about whether the guy's ever rented anything before or not, or is a new user.
I think everybody's just trying to invent the next Airbnb or something like that. So everyone's trying to come up with some way to capitalize on other people's property.
Yeah, I like the concept. I've got some gear in my closet that isn't being used. I could probably take advantage of this service, but I think he brings up some good tips. At the bottom there. Again, being more cognizant of who you're renting to, asking for ID, and just making sure that who you're renting to has a reputation. Maybe seeing if they don't have a reputation, maybe not renting them extremely expensive gear. Because everybody's going to start out with no reputation, right? So you can't just completely blacklist everyone who doesn't have a reputation, but maybe keeping it like, oh well, I'm not going to give you my $6,000 medium format kit. How about I give you this rinky-dink $500 camera or something like that?
Or use my GoPro 4.
Yeah, there you go. Here, you can borrow my GoPro. But you said you used the service in San Francisco, or you knew about the service in San Francisco, Gabriella?
Yeah, I knew about it mostly. So I heard of some students using it, but mostly through tech people, because it's a very tech thing of like instant gratification and like getting your expensive gear. And honestly, this dude who probably lost it was probably a tech bro who just like thinks that the world is benevolent and fine and that everything works out, and doesn't. People steal stuff in San Francisco. Like all the time. So
would you ever use a system like this or service like this?
No. No, I would not. No. I borrow from my friends.
Are you sure about that? You don't sound very convincing.
Yeah, no. Not at all. I trust my friends.
Yeah,
that's the best rental system.
There you go. I've never really borrowed any equipment from anyone. I guess because I've always been able to get equipment I needed for anything I needed, professionally in my professional job. But even when, like, for instance, if somebody had I've been in situations where we only have like one fisheye lens or one specific type of lens amongst a group. And so one person has it checked out. Even when they check it out to me or another person, like there's a lot of signing of forms that goes between the two of us, so that if I lose it, they're not going to be held accountable for me losing their stuff or whatever happens to it. So I wouldn't use a service like this unless I was just either one, didn't care if my stuff got stolen, two, the lender sort of agreement or insurance was rock solid, or three, it wasn't the most expensive, or again, the person I was lending it to was extremely reputable in terms of having some sort of internet points, I guess. But even still, it's at your own risk. So good luck there. I look forward to the self-driving car future. They always say like, oh yeah, your car is gonna be working for you. Like it'll be Ubering people around while you're at work. So same general idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but then the car would be like racist or sexist or something.
Really, self-driving cars? Racist and sexist?
Yeah, probably.
Oh no!
You never know.
Your car wouldn't pick me up.
Like, no, not doing that.
So we're talking a lot about gear this week. Ron, mute your mic. And there was a music video here about gear lust, and I haven't had gear lust myself, but again, I have had it. I just haven't had it recently. And the song's about gear acquisition syndrome. So the general idea being that we see gear and we just want it. You may not necessarily need it, or no one will need it, but we just want that new hot piece of camera equipment, new lens or whatever it is. I guess I'll throw it to the guy who just bought a medium format camera. What do you think about gear acquisition system syndrome? There, Travis. Is that
Travis.
something?
Hi, my name is Travis. I've suffered from gear acquisition system for years. Yeah.
Hey, Travis.
I know. I'm trying to cope with it, but no, I definitely am someone that isn't a big tech person that loves new stuff and loves playing with new stuff. And I think I do it very responsibly. When I buy gear, I tend to sell my old gear or keep all the boxes and packaging, and I'm very methodical about the way I keep my gear and sell it. So even with buying the newest gear, I'm still selling old gear and not paying full price. So it's almost like I'm on a rental system, where I trade in every couple of years or a year depending on the gear. But there's so much coming out recently, and especially in the mirrorless world and mirrorless medium format that's really exciting. So it's there's a lot coming out. So I like the new stuff a lot.
Yeah, I have to say I've been able to curtail my own personal gas, with regard to like the S1, right? The S1, S1R. I see that camera and I see all these reviews and people talking about it, and it's like, I want to get it, but then I think to myself, why am I going to spend, $2,000 to $3,000, $4,000 on this new camera system? Am I going to be using it to make money for myself, right? Am I actually, and the truth is, no, I'm not. I don't have the time to, do my own side business and stuff, and, where I'm going next. I don't know, even if that's what kind of, the landscape is over in Korea. So I've been able to kind of like slap my hand and no, don't buy. But if I did buy it, I'd sell everything I own. But, again, I don't feel like going through that process because that's a whole thing. Although I did, when I bought my GH4 or GH5, I bought it off Adorama, and I packaged, they have this system where you can package all your gear, and you send it to Adorama, and they'll price it for you, and then apply that to whatever gear you're going to buy. So, it's kind of like going to a pawn store or going someplace is going to resell your stuff. You're not getting the best possible price for it because you have to go through a third-party reseller, but it saves you the inconvenience of having to go through the sketchy Facebook, Craigslist, world of trying to sell your stuff.
If you're trying to sell it through B&H or one of those places, that they really offer you just it's pitiful. Like one of the flashes I had, they're selling it used for $300 and they offer me $30 for it. I mean,
oh my gosh! Wow, that's horrible.
Ridiculous. So luckily I posted in my little circles and I was able to sell the camera but I think gear acquisition is the worst when people feel they need something when they don't. I mean, if it's going to add or make your life easier or add value to what you do or make you more money, just to buy it, just to have it because it's new is probably not the smartest thing for anyone to do. But for me, I'm selling my my crop sensor, Fuji, and getting a medium sensor. I have full systems on Sony. I have multiple cameras and Canon. I don't need a crop sensor. I don't need a full frame sensor. Medium format is really something different and going to add something that's very unlike anything that I currently have. So for me, it's a justification that's kind of smart and just adding something to my repertoire that's not going to be duplicated by anything else.
Yeah. How about you, Ron? Any new Chinese gear you dropped your dimes on? Dropped your dollars on any Kickstarters?
What's that?
Any Kickstarters?
Kickstarters? God, you guys sucker me and all that stuff. Nothing lately. I've been behaving myself, especially with the advent of the EOS R line with Canon. I'm a Canon user. With the EOS R line, a whole lot of EF stuff is on sale right now. It's really tempting to buy some really great deals, but I'm not. Reason is because I can see the mirrorless future ahead, and I'm not going to stay mired. I'm not going to add more stuff to keep me locked in where I am now. Yeah, it's really time to get rid of my stuff, not add more to it. But that said, I'm still not going to buy an EOS R right now because it's not what I want.
Yeah. Get the EOS RP.
Okay, you talked me into it.
It'll go great with your Arsenal.
Yeah, good God.
Getting a lot of use out of that Arsenal?
I gotta send it to you guys. No, I used it for like a week. Whatever.
Still waiting for it. I can't wait to have that conversation where we all talk about our experiences with it, Ron.
Yeah, I'll mail it out. I got the Nikon cable, so I can send it out now, and you guys can play.
Okay.
Well, how about you?
Well, Zach can play.
What are you shooting on?
Right now, I have a Canon 60D.
Oh, awesome! All right. And you, Gabrielle?
I have the old 60 and a Mark III.
Nice.
So are you feeling magic? Are you feeling the drive to upgrade there, Gabriella?
I want Sony's. I want to go mirrorless so badly. I'm so over the Canon cameras. They're so big. They're so loud. They intimidate people. I'm over it.
Travis just got a kickback from Sony for that comment, just so you know.
Exactly.
This little Sony event that Focus Camera's doing on the 10th in Brooklyn. You can come and play with some cameras.
Yeah.
I'll send you a link.
Just give me one.
Well, if we just get that darn Sony sponsorship to come through, maybe we could all have Sony cameras, you know? I will make Sony the official camera of Around the Lens if they send us all camera gear. So Travis, you hook that up. This will be Sony presents Around the Lens.
Well, let's look at these images right now. Let's guess which one's shot on a Sony.
I don't know which. The ones here for the podcast. Okay, yeah, right, of course. Well, mine shot with my rinky-dink webcam on my laptop. I don't think anyone else is using anybody. I think we're all using webcams except for you, Travis. Yeah. You got the sweet kit with the, what is that, a 1.4, 1.2? What lens is that?
It's the 35 1.4 on the Sony A7 III.
Ah, that's that creamy bokeh, indeed. Anyways, your webcam, your picture is like, again, the ad for Sony. We put a little Sony logo in the corner.
Somebody's got a class to join up around here.
No. I'll get my Panasonic.
If she was here every week, she would, but she's only a guest tonight, so I have to do something.
I'll have my Panasonic back up and running when I get back. So at least it'll be slightly better than my webcam. But is it tough for you as a freelancer, Gabriella, to get new gear? I mean, how are you handling that? How do you? Because obviously, nobody's going to pay for you to get new gear. You're a freelancer. If your gear breaks, how do you handle that?
Well, I just took a trip to Australia, so apparently I just don't handle it. But my goal right now is to just make as much money as I can, so I can upgrade to a Sony, and I'm about halfway there right now.
Okay.
So that's the priority right now. But
which Sony specifically?
Just working.
The A7?
Oh, the A7. I really like the A7 III. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just fast. I've been looking at the Sonys because I want to do more surf photography and do more water work and stuff like that. And the Sonys are really good in the water because they're fast. And they're
the A9.
And the A9 too. That's so expensive though. What do I want to do? Sell my kidney?
They just upgraded it today with a firmware that made it basically a brand new camera. The
really?
The object tracking, the animal tracking. It's 24 frames a second if you were doing surfing. I mean, forget about it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
But the A7 III is going to get an update too.
So. Okay, good. I'll just have to wait 10 years until I can afford it.
There you go.
No, wait a couple months and there's something new will come out and I'll sell my A7 III.
There you go. Yeah, just buy it from Travis. And that's again, me thinking, again, I've tried to curtail my own desire to buy the new fancy that portable gimbal camera, right? From DJI. I was thinking about getting that, but I'm thinking to myself,
I got that too.
Do I need it, right? And all this stuff just sits in a closet or sits in a drawer. It just, it collects dust. I mean, are you using that thing on a regular basis, Travis?
I did. I did a magazine shoot the other day, and I had my assistant actually use the DJI, the Pocket Osmo, and all the behind-the-scenes stuff was shot on that, and we put a little sizzle reel together for the magazine, and it looks great. It's one of the things I'm actually going into. I'm speaking at SVA tomorrow, and this kit right here, I'm going to show this bag, which is this big.
Oh my, yeah, I got one of those.
And in here,
design.
but in here, is my DJI Mavic Air, my GoPro, my Sony camera, a mic, I think a Roto light, and all of that. So I can do aerials, I can do gimbal shots, I can do professional shots, all in just something that fits over my shoulder, which is insane.
Yeah.
And that's really kind of what I'm talking about tomorrow is you can do things in that size bag that full movie production crews couldn't do 15 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of thing would be, a production van and like a crew of 20
renting
people.
Helicopters and and steady cam operators and it's just insane what you can do in just a little bag.
No, absolutely, I completely agree. And again, I'm glad you're getting use out of it. And I'm not, I think the DJI camera is great. But again, I have this tendency to buy things because they look cool and then use it for a bit. And like even my drone, it's been used, but it's kind of sitting on a shelf right now. But, again, that just encourages me to use it more or to not buy this stuff in the first place. So,
yeah.
By the way, I want to say hi to Natasha Johnson. Hi, Natasha. Thank you for joining the show. Natasha? You know Natasha? No?
No.
Okay.
Hi.
Anyway, she's watching the show right now. Our last topic this evening is brought to us by, this was recommended by Zach, and I'd love for him to talk about it, but, he's not here tonight. But I thought it was interesting just because it kind of goes in line with what you do, Gabriella. It's in this, you may not be...
Just a quick thing. Natasha Johnson is now one of the Sony alpha females. She was selected.
Oh, awesome!
A very few people that were very lucky and very talented. She's an incredible photographer, and she's one of the very first to be selected as one of the B alpha females for the Sony new, and being mentored by one of the. So she's
go girl,
kick-ass female that is.
Go girl, don't come back.
So that's who she is.
Well, we're so happy to have Natasha on the show. Not on the show, but commenting on the show. Maybe we can have her on the show in the future. Travis, you work that out.
Love to be on the show, I'm sure, and I would love to have her. She's
great.
So talented.
Yeah.
All right, you're welcome to come on, Natasha. Anyways, this last story is from the New York Times, and it was again suggested by Zach. It's about a photo of a 7-year-old girl that was transformed the abolition movement. And if you see this photo, this girl looks like a white girl, right? She's got, what looks like typical white person hair. She's got a, white complexion, but she's actually was a slave or the child of, in slavery because she was African American. But she just had a very, white complexion. Anyways, this photo was taken around, and it was used to help, raise awareness about the abolition movement and stuff like that, and try and drive people, to push towards, getting rid of slavery. And again, I thought this was an interesting story. I'd never heard of this story before. I thought, again, you look at these photographs, and it's like I can see how this photograph and whatnot would, get people to, open their eyes to the whole ridiculousness of what slavery was. This idea that, skin color mattered at all. And I thought, you have, your story about the mother and pregnancy and homeless shelters, kind of is that same sort of regard. You're highlighting something to get focus. It's sort of like activism in with regard to highlighting an issue. What are your thoughts on, you probably didn't see this story, but what are your thoughts on using, work to make change, and have you seen any of your work like make a substantial impact? Like, has this series that you did for the New York Times, has that done anything? Has that moved the needle in any way with regard to the issue you're raising?
It has for Shamika personally. I believe she received some donations. I know that when the company in that specific building, they changed out the cribs so that they're no longer metal, that they're wood. But that's as far as I know. I mean, like, after working at so many local papers and kind of seeing how local newsrooms are just being decimated right now, it's really rare to kind of see the change that can happen, because a lot of local newspapers don't really have the reach of the Times and like the name brand of the Times. So it was really interesting kind of seeing like the impact of the Times and how immediate that was. I believe I worked on a story about a mom who crossed the country and after being released from a detention center after she crossed the border with her kids, and someone saw that story and they donated like $10,000 to Immigrant Families Together, which was this organization that was raising money for all these people. So, I mean, you really hope for change to happen, but, I don't know. You just don't really see it as much anymore. And I hope that change can still happen, at least a little bit, especially specifically on the local level.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that's because maybe, typical news media, New York Times and whatnot, they're not like, every time I hear about, some sort of change or something, it's always from like some viral thing, and then somebody does a GoFundMe.
Yeah.
And that seems to be where people are sort of gravitating towards, not some story done in a website or newspaper, God forbid, where no one will see it. That's kind of...
Yeah.
And I think, if your stuff can get to the level where someone's going to pick it up or throw it onto there, and that's where you're going to see, actual substantial change nowadays, it seems.
Yeah, and it's kind of like with the whole viral thing, it's kind of like, we just saw that with this boy, Tani, who was the chess player, who my friend Christopher Lee did the photos for that. But anyways, we were talking about how it was so immediate, like these people just attached to his story and donated it, and it was kind of like, oh, we solved the problem, we solved homelessness and refugees, okay, that was it. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more of an issue, and it's a institutional problem that we have to deal with. And you can't just throw money at it or just throw a GoFundMe at it. So I kind of wonder what's going to happen. Like, is this how we're going to deal with things now? It's like we're just going to help one individual that represents that entire like demographic. Like, I don't know. I guess we're just going to have to see. So
well, it's better than hashtagism, right?
Wow.
Where it's like, let me just put a Twitter post, where I'm saying like, oh, so sorry for you, hashtag get well, At least it's more substantial than that.
Sending prayers.
Yeah, and like as journalists, we hope that we can shed light on the whole problem. But, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if like viewers can just like think about it and try to make some sort of change on their own, or if they're just going to attach to that one person. So. Well,
I'm surprised you don't see like, and again, maybe it's an integrity thing, but like, why is there not, perhaps, I don't know if this story has any sort of links to anything, that, like, how can I donate to this person, or help, what can I do next, I've seen this story about this, woman in a homeless shelter with a child, what can I do? Was there anything like that attached to this story when it was published, do you know?
Yeah, a lot of people reached out to the reporter Nikita, and they wanted to donate to her, and I got a couple people asking me how they could help her.
But see, why do they have to go through you and the reporter? Why isn't there not just like a link to, something more direct? I see that sometimes on some stories there is like, okay, you've been moved by this story.
Yeah, I think that for that story we couldn't, because that was seen as like activists, and like the Times didn't want to like get political. Mm-hmm. But yeah, what we did is like we just said, look, this is her information. If you want to send her stuff, you can either send it to Nikita or send it to Shamika. That. So yeah, that was that. I know I wanted to be like, donate, do all this stuff, let's do this, but it was hard.
You need someone to actually organize that, because there's laws and regulations.
I mean, that would have been cool.
Raising funds and all kind of GoFundMe stuff like that. So it's not something you can just. Certainly, the Times can't do it for them. But
Yeah. I wish, but we can't. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we all hope that what we do makes some difference in some way to someone, right? At least if you're trying to, if your work is trying to do that, But yeah, I think that's the sort of thing, and that's not just your career field or the civilian side. It's also in the military side. Creating work and hoping that it makes difference and makes change in policy and whatnot. That's a big thing that we hope for as well in terms of what we do. So, and sometimes it does, and you can see the fruits of your labor. And sometimes you don't know if what you're doing is making a difference whatsoever, and that kind of makes it hard to justify and sort of feel like what you're doing is actually making a difference. Have you done anything like that? Zach or Travis or Ron? Have you ever? I know Travis, you're more doing commercial work for clients, and Ron, you're doing more stuff for your TV station. Actually, I'll throw it to you, Ron, because again, you're more in that broadcast journalism space. Have you seen anything you've done for Eagle News, or anything made a difference in anything?
We cover a lot of anything related to the Filipino community here in Hawaii, and a lot of food drives, a lot of outreach programs, things like that we cover. Mm-hmm. So sure, it makes a difference. Sure, especially people in the Philippines want to see that Filipinos in Hawaii are making a difference. So it's a big boost for them over there to see the stuff we put out over here.
But has it actually led to something? Have you seen sort of have what you've done, impacted something as opposed to just reporting on it and making the folks back home feel like, I don't know, feel good, I guess? Can you point to anything you've done that has a demonstrable impact?
I can't think of anything particularly like that. Maybe next week I come up with a better idea. Off the top of my head, I can't. I don't know.
Just do something. Just do something between now and the next show that creates a demonstrable impact. Okay, be like, hey guys, I solved poverty in Hawaii with this piece I did. Done.
My last report was a Filipino ball that was going on here, a costume contest, things like that. Not really hard hitting news lately. Sorry.
I've certainly worked on a bunch of projects and stuff like that. I mean, I do a lot of stuff for Robin Hood, for Big Brother, Big Sister. I did a project where I was commissioned by the Philadelphia 76ers, where they were moving their practice facilities to Camden, New Jersey. And they wanted me to come in and photograph all the people that were in Camden and would be affected by, the 76ers putting money in their practice facility into that neighborhood. So I went there and photographed a bunch of, everything from gang members to drug dealers to, drug addicts, homeless people, all in that area. And we did a huge fundraiser, and a lot went into that community, and those photos were used in a lot of ways and stuff like that for good. But I certainly donate my time as much as I can to those kind of causes, and I've been to Africa to work with, children and organizations and stuff like that. So it's sort of like, it's the Hollywood model of doing, I'll do some big, event or huge corporate thing and make money there, and then I'll go off to the independents where I'm basically paying and funding my way to donate my services and help for the kind of those situations for good.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Glad you do that. All right, well, let's end to this week's show. We've had a great show, great conversation, great talks. Gabriella, thank you so much for coming out on the show and being a guest with us. We really appreciate it. Is there anything you would like to point people towards? Any sort of website or either your own personal work or someone else's work that you'd like to point people towards?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Gabriella with a dot between the A and the B. My website is Gabriella Angojo, Angojo. As far as other people to follow, Katie Kahn. I love her so much. I don't know what her Instagram handle is, but Google it. She's amazing. She's the only person I want to shout out because she's the only person that matters. So,
okay. Is she another photographer, freelance photographer? Is she a freelance photographer?
No, she works at the Colorado Springs Gazette, and she's a videographer. But she's an amazing photographer, and she just took home a bunch of NPPA awards this last time.
Okay,
so
great.
So proud of her.
Katie Kahn.
Yeah. Katie Kahn, yeah.
How do you spell the last name? Is that Kahn?
Hold on, let me look this up.
We're gonna Google it. I think of Kahn like Kahn. I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways.
Okay. KLANN, and her Instagram is KHKLANN.
That's awesome.
Love her.
KLAHAN.
Yeah.
We're gonna make sure that hits the show notes, right?
Well, I'm trying to throw it in the chat here for Natasha.
All right, good. Yes, I know she wants it.
All right, yeah, we'll throw it in the show notes. Awesome. All right, Travis, you got anything for our folks?
Well, definitely, since we have one of the alpha females on listening right now, I want everybody to check out the Sony, the alpha females there. Amazing group of women that are just badass, doing amazing things from wedding photography to social issues to everything. So this is the first group. So Sony Alpha Universe, you can check them out, support them, follow them. They're an amazing group, and we're very lucky that Sony is supporting women the way they are, and I'm very proud that they are.
Awesome, great. Ron, anything from you besides beautiful weather?
That's all I have to offer, gentlemen. Oh, Gabriella, wait, I got to give you the same invitation I give everybody. If you're ever in Hawaii, stop by.
Awesome. There you go.
Thank you. I will. I'll definitely do that.
We got a spare room.
Your
Don't break
address.
it.
All right, I need to book a room for a week.
It's on my website.
Well, I just want to tell everybody to tune in for our next show. It'll be on April Fool's Day. April 1st, we're going to have BP Miller, so it's going to be just a show full of fun and pranks, and we're going to have to prank BP somehow. So
it's going to be my birthday show.
Ooh, your birthday is on April 1st?
April 3rd, but you know.
Oh, okay.
My parents used to tease me and said, no, you were really born on April 1st.
Yeah, well, my birthday is March 31st, so I just barely missed the April 1st, April Fool's birthday. But glad to know we have another Aries on the show.
We'll blow out cupcakes and candles up together on the show.
That's right. Well, this is my birthday show, essentially, because I'm not going to be here for my birthday. So you can all start singing now. Anytime now. Come on.
Like Marilyn.
No?
Birthday
to
you.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Like Marilyn Monroe, president.
Yes, I'll be celebrating my birthday on the 31st. So if you want to send me any gifts, you can go to patreon.com/aroundthelens and donate to the show.
Here's
That's all I
Venmo.
want. That's all I want for my birthday is for patrons to come and donate to our show. So you can do that.
For Sony gear.
That's right. Yeah, I'm starting a GoFundMe so I can get brand new gear. 100% of the proceeds go to me. No. But yeah, if you do want to support the show, if you like what you're listening to, like what you're hearing, like what you're watching, you want to support great visual journalism discussion, that's the best way to do it. Go to our Patreon page and throw us some bones, okay?
And as I always say, which I forgot to say, if you want to follow up any of the topics today or have new ones that you'd like to discuss, please reach out to us and follow us.
That's right. Go to aroundthelens.com. It's your information source. You can find links and contacts, all of us on there, and also see what we got going on because we got a schedule that goes all the way out to the end of June, I'm happy to say. So got a great bunch of guests lined up for till the end of June, and then who knows what's going to be beyond. You could be on the show. You could be a guest.
Big guest coming. Lots of fun stuff.
Right. Oh, man. All right. Well, thank you so much, Gabrielle. Appreciate your time coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Hope we have you on again in the future. For Travis Keys and Ron Hamilton, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 167, and we are out. Thanks for tuning into Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, go to aroundthelens.com for show notes from tonight's episode, as well as links to our Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. We're also always looking for new and exciting guests to feature on each show, so if you know somebody who might be interested, let them know.